Already taken lunch? Finish, yeah? Boleh. Mandi aja, ya. Sudah. Oke, homage to the Buddha, Namo Buddhaya. Again, I would like to remind you about one thing. As I mentioned earlier in the very beginning, the purpose of this Buddhist meditation is to abandon, to eliminate the defilements of mind, the evil and unwholesome thoughts, which are the causes for all our suffering. As we know that the main teachings of the Buddha is about the Four Noble Truths, and that we can find the cause why we get suffering is because of the tanha, the defilements of mind, the craving, together with other evil thoughts. Those are the causes why we get suffering. So therefore the meditation taught by the Buddha is only for the sake of how these defilements of mind, evil and unwholesome thoughts, can be eliminated so that the suffering will be ended. So this is the main purpose why we are practicing meditation. According to commentary literature, the defilements of mind, the things of mind, can be categorized into three groups. One is the gross one, the gross defilement, and the medium defilement, and the last one is the subtle defilements. The gross defilement is the defilements of mind which already manifest into bodily and verbal action. Like when a person is doing killing, or taking what is not given, or doing sexual misconduct, telling lie, or taking the drug. All this actually coming from the mental disorder, coming from defilements of mind. Because as a person is unable to restrain himself from his evil thought, and he just open it into verbal or bodily actions like killing and so on. So therefore these defilements of mind, which is the grossest one, can be abandoned by practicing, by training the moral training, the sila. That is the reason why like this morning you start with this one day mindfulness by taking precepts, the 5 and 8 precepts. And those precepts are actually the way how to abandon the grossest defilements of mind. You have the things of mind, you have the evil thought, but because you have the precept, you have the moral training, and then you will not do that according to your evil thought in verbal or bodily actions, just keeping within the mind. So the grossest defilement is accordingly can be restraint can be abandoned by practicing, by taking precept, by moral training. So that is a good thing. So this is the reason why in Buddhist meditation, the so-called sila, the so-called moral training cannot be separated. When we're practicing this meditation, should also practice the sila, should also practice this moral training. Without moral training, it is impossible to have the development of mind. Because before we can erase or delete or eliminate the medium and the subtle developments, we also have to take care of this closest one. And to handle the closest one, we should practice, we should take this precept, moral training. You are practicing the 5, or some of you practicing the 8 precept, and that is a good thing. And now, even though the closest one is already abandoned by practicing morality, but we have to handle, we have to face the medium one. So this medium defilements of mind is the defilements which very clear seen in the mind, but not yet appear, not yet manifest into verbal or bodily actions. Just like when you get anger, when you get angry, you know the anger within your mind, but you don't speak out of anger. You don't do bodily action out of anger. You know the anger within your mind. So this is a medium, because not yet manifesting into verbal or bodily action. And normally, according to a lot of references, this medium defilements of mind referring to the 5 hindrances that all the meditators or yogis will face it. These 5 hindrances that I would like to explain about these 5 hindrances, because these hindrances are the things that weakening the wisdom, weakening our mind to get the wisdom. So then, when our mind is overwhelmed by these 5 hindrances, it is impossible to develop the wisdom. Impossible to see everything as it is. Just like there is one simile. Suppose there is a water, and then inside the water there are 3 coins. When that water is very clean, very clear, is it possible to see the 3 coins inside, or the bottoms of the water? It is possible to see it. But when that water is perhaps muddy or colorful, or being covered by the plants, or it is waving or boiling, so it is difficult to see on the bottom of that, perhaps like the river, the water in the river, to see the 3 coins. So likewise, when our mind is being muddled by these hindrances, our mind is being colorful by these hindrances, so it is impossible to see everything as it is. When I say everything as it is, it means that to see what is impermanent, what is suffering, and what is non-self, like 3 coins. It is impossible to see the characteristics of impermanency in our minds and body. Impossible to see the characteristics of suffering, let alone to see this non-self characteristic when our minds are being overwhelmed by these hindrances. So what are these hindrances? The first is desire to enjoy the sensual pleasure. Kamachanda in the Pali term. Desire for sensual pleasures. Desire to enjoy the pleasure which rising from the 6 sense faculties, whether the pleasure with regard to the form, or to the sound, or to the smell, to the taste, touch, or even the pleasure within the thought, engaging the thought which is connected to the sensual pleasures. So when there is this desire, any kinds of desire for these sensual pleasures in this meditation, we have to remember that this is also the hindrance. And this desire actually can arise at any time. Not only just in the meditation, at any time. The only difference is that when we are meditating, this desire can be easily detected, can be easily noticed. While we are in the day-to-day life, while not meditating, it is difficult to notice it. And even we have to say that almost all the things that we are doing, almost all the things is out of desire to enjoy the sensual pleasures. And almost the things in the world, outside there, almost the things are about sensual pleasures. Is it right? You can see the advertisement, the social media, everything, what they provide is about the sensual pleasures. And that's why this desire for sensual pleasures, even though it is common in the society, common among the people, and it is kind of something insignificant among the people, but in the practice of meditation, we have to see this as the hindrance. So whatever desire to take the sensual pleasures towards the form or the sound, the taste, the touch, or engaging the thought of sensual pleasures, all these are the hindrance for meditation. And we have to see it as a hindrance. This is the first. So this first hindrance by the Buddha is having the simile, just like water, mixed up with color, very colorful, and it is not easy to see our reflections from this colorful water. Normally when water is very clean and very still, and we can see our reflection, we can use that water as a mirror. Then when it is colorful, even though it is looks like very beautiful, but it is difficult to see our reflection through that colorful water. So this is the way of the desire for sensual pleasures. It is addicting. It is dragging our mind. It is a kind of beautiful things, but when our mind is overwhelmed by this desire, it is not easy. It is even difficult to see what is actually going on, to see the characteristics of impermanency, suffering, and non-self. We cannot see everything as it is. So therefore we have to see the hindrance, this sensual desire, as the hindrance. And this is the first. And the second one is that vyapada. That is the ill will. That is a hatred. That is a anger, disliking. So it is quite opposing to the first, but not in the positive way, but in the negative way. In the first, for the first sensual desire, normally the object of sensual desire is a pleasant thing, the pleasant object, the pleasant form, the pleasant sound, the pleasant touch, taste. But for the second one is the object, usually unpleasant one. So when we get unpleasant object through our eyes, or our ears, our nose, our tongue, our body, or our mind, we have to face unpleasant object that arises the ill will, the hatred, disliking. So this is also the hindrance for the mind. So when the mind is being overwhelmed, invaded by this ill will, by this hatred, a kind of disliking, that also should be seen as a hindrance. So the Buddha has given a simile. It is just like water being boiled, so that we cannot see our reflection through that boiling water. So likewise, when our mind is being overwhelmed, invaded by this ill will, this hatred, disliking, we also cannot see as it is. This body and mind as it is. So this also have to be seen as the hindrance. That is the second hindrance that normally, usually we have to face it. Just like the questions about our pain while meditating. We have to see whether we want to move, we change our posture out of disliking or it is out of need. If it is out of disliking, that means we have to accept that this is also ill will. This is also a hindrance. Because this is our habit. When we experience this unpleasant feeling, unpleasant object, and then the ill will, disliking, the hatred will arise. So we have to train ourselves to be patient, to be balanced, to be equanimous. This is training, of course. After some times, and then we can bear it, and we can just change our posture. That's okay, but at least we already trained, even just for a few minutes. So this is second hindrance. And the third one is also very often to arise during our meditation. And not only just our meditation, but almost in all the time. But in meditation, we can easily be carried away by this hindrance. That is tinamita, sloth and torpor, sleepiness, laziness, especially after taking meal. Very easy to get sleepy. That's why the Buddha said that when we are getting sleepy after taking meal, it is called Bhatta Samadha. Bhatta means rice. Samadha means drunk by rice. So when you are getting sleepy, well, after taking meal, and it is called Bhatta Samadha. So that also the hindrance in the meditation, even though in that kind of state of mind, we don't do any evil action toward others, but for the development of mind, that is the hindrance. So this sloth and torpor, the laziness. So the laziness can arise due to the two things. One is from our mind itself, and the second one is due to our physical. Just after taking meal, this is our physical. So when we get sleepy, we also have to fight. We have to, arousing an effort to fight this sleepiness. But, of course, with the exception, if the whole day we don't take rest, of course, when we get sleepy, it is because our body is needing to sleep. But if last night we already sleep for 7 or 8 hours, and then now meditating still sleep, this is the problem. We have to fight. We have to arouse our effort to fight this sleepiness, because this is the hindrance. This is the third one. So the Buddha said, this is just like water being covered by the plant. Even though it is clear, but if it is covered by this plant, we cannot use that water to see our reflection. We cannot see our mind and body as it is. As impermanent, suffering, non-self, we cannot see it because we just get sleepiness. We get sleepy. So this is the third one. So the fourth one is restless mind, anxiety. It is also the hindrance that normally appears during meditation. Instead of our minds being settled down, our mind being still, our mind being concentrated, focused, but then our mind is wandering, either to the past or to the future, cannot settle down, cannot still, just wandering, restless. So when we see that our mind is already wandering, thinking about the past, about the future, about anything, we have to come back to these objects of meditation. We have to see it as the hindrance. This is the hindrance. And some people asking me whether when we see our minds wandering, we have to follow the mind until it ends. It is impossible. to see the ending of our thoughts. Impossible. Because when we just follow engaging in the thoughts, that thought is always going on. Will never end. So as soon as we know that our mind is already going away, wandering, we have to come back to our objects of meditation. Breathing out and in. This is the fourth one. And the fifth one is doubt, vicikicca. So the fourth one is uddhasa kukucca, the restless and anxiety, while in the fifth one, it is vicikicca, the doubt. But of course, the doubt here is not the doubt about the name of the person, the name of the road, not like that, but it is the doubt about this meditation itself. When we are practicing the Buddhist meditation, of course, it is referring to the doubt about the teaching, about the Dhamma, about this meditation, as to whether this meditation is beneficial or not, whether what I am doing now, it is giving advantage or not, whether what meditation that I do, what I practice now, it is the correct way or wrong way. So all this doubt is the hindrance for the meditation. So we also have to eliminate. And now the question is that how to eliminate, how to abandon these five hindrances. There are a lot of ways that we can do to abandon these five hindrances. The simplest one is by coming back to our objects of meditation. So whatever hindrances which arise, whether it is about sensual desire, or it is about ill will, sloth and torpor, anxiety, restless mind, or the doubt, whatever it is, we have to come back to our objects of meditation. We have to come back to the breathing out and in. This is the simplest way. But if by doing so, our mind is still wandering, our mind is still being overwhelmed by any kinds of hindrances, so we have to use another way. So another way is given by the Buddha by having contemplation. By contemplation. Contemplating at least the danger of that hindrance. To see the danger of that hindrance. Of course, we already learned a lot of things about the Buddha's teaching. And actually, the whole teachings of the Buddha that we know, all these teachings of the Buddha can be used for the contemplation, for eliminating any defilements of mind which arise. Just for example, the ill will or the anger. Perhaps by meditating, we get angry to someone else. And because of that, we cannot concentrate our mind. Our mind is always thinking about such a person who perhaps already hurting us or making us harm and so on, and the anger rises. And what we have to do in this kind of a state of mind, we can have the contemplation. We have to contemplate the danger of the anger itself. So we remember what the Buddha said. It is just like a person who get angry to someone else and then throwing the hot iron to others, to the one who is get anger, or he throws the dirt to others. When that happens, who will get soured first? Who will get burned first? Who will get dirty first? Oneself or others? It is oneself. We get angry to others. We throw the hot iron to others. And the one who gets suffered first because of burning is ourselves. We throw others with the dirt. The one who gets dirty first is ourselves, not others. That means when we get angry, when we have the ill will, hating others, the one who gets suffered first is ourselves, not others. Others will get suffered only when they also respond our hatred, with hatred. But if they don't respond with hatred, they just don't care about our hatred, they are not getting suffered, but we are suffered first. So understanding this, remembering this, contemplating this, that anger also will disappear. Because we see the waste of anger that we have. For what? Because we get suffered. So this is also the way how to get rid of this ill will, this hindrance. Or perhaps when the sense of desire arises within our mind, because we already read the Buddha's teaching, for example, in certain discourse, and then we remember at the time the Buddha said that when we have the sensual desire, when our mind is carried away by sensual desire, it is just like a hungry dog standing in front of the slaughterhouse, hoping the butcher will come and throw the meat to him. But then the butcher comes and throw him not the meat, but the skeleton smeared by the blood. And that dog, thinking by having that skeleton smeared by the blood, he can appease his hunger. But is it possible? No. He cannot appease his hunger. But the more he takes that blood, the more he gets hungry. So likewise, when we live just for the sake of sensual desire, we will never be satisfied. We will never be enough. Even we, and then become the slave of our craving, our desire. And the Buddha said, Unuloko atito tanghadaso. That's how much we kept the sensual desire. We always feel not enough. Unuloko. Will not be satisfied atito. And ultimately, we become the slave of our desire, the slave of our craving, tanhadaso. So remembering this, contemplating this statement of the Buddha, that sensual desire overwhelming our mind can disappear. And of course, when we remember this statement of the Buddha, doesn't mean we have to contemplate with a longer time, because as soon as we remember this teaching, even the split second we remember, and that's enough to put away the sensual desire within our mind. So this is also the way. So whatever teaching, advices from the Buddha that you have learned, perhaps from reading, from listening, discourses from the monk and so on, that also can be used for eliminating these defilements of mind, these hindrances, in your meditation. This is the second. If by this kind of contemplations you cannot abandon the hindrances, is there any way, other way to appease, to abandon the defilements, the hindrance? The Buddha said there is another way. And that way is called asati amanasikara, by not giving attention, by not giving attention toward that thought. That means just forget. When you have the defilement arising in your mind, just forget it. Just come back to the objects of meditation. Just forget everything. Forget what you are thinking. Forget what you are now having. Just forget everything and come back to this breathing out and in. Not giving attention. That's also the way. Rather by contemplating, you cannot do, you cannot appease your mind, and then you just forget. Not giving attention to the hindrances which arises at the time. If by that also cannot abandon the defilements of mind, the Buddha said, you just be relaxed. You just see that thought, that evil thought closely, and then you just be relaxed. It is just like a person who is running and then he thought himself, why I should run? Is it possible if I just walk? And then he's just walking. And then while he is walking, and then he thought himself, why I'm walking? Is it possible and better if I'm just standing? And then he just stand. And while he's standing, and then he thought himself, why I'm standing? Is it possible and is it better if I'm just sitting? And then he's just sitting. While he's sitting, and then he thought himself, why I'm sitting? Is it possible or better if I'm just laying down? And then he just lay down. So likewise, when these hindrances arises in our mind, we just, closely see that defilement, see that hindrance, and then just be relaxed. Relaxing our mind, calming down our mind. Not do anything. We see the object. We know the object. We know this defilement, these hindrances, but not doing anything. And the mind is slowly coming down, and coming down. And that is also the way. After the mind is coming down, what we have to do? We just come back to the objects of meditation, the breathing out and in. So by doing so, this is how we meditate, how we train our mind in this development of mind, in this Citta Bhavana. Not let the hindrances overpowering our mind, overwhelming our mind. Whenever it arises, we immediately make an effort how to eliminate the hindrances by any kinds of ways. Whether we just come back to the objects of meditation, we can have the contemplation by forgetting it, by not giving attention, or just by calming down our mind. Whatever the way you do, as long as it is the way to eliminate the hindrances which are arising, that is the way of Buddhist meditation. Okay, I think this is what I want to say, and I hope that what I say just now, it is being practiced during our meditation. So, to summarize, is that in the meditation, just not let your mind being overpowered, being overwhelmed by these defilements of mind. The 5 hindrances are the hindrances of mind from developing the wisdom, and in order to get the wisdom, understanding, we have to eliminate these hindrances by coming back again and again to the objects of meditation. I think so, and we can continue our sitting meditation. And later, I think what time that we have the question and answer? Okay. 4 o'clock. Yeah.
Yeah, 4 o'clock. So I think 2 o'clock we have a short break.
Okay, again, we have to prepare ourselves. For those who are sitting on the asana, on the ground, you can sit cross-legged. You erect your body straight. You put your eyes closed and place your hands either on the lap or on the knee. And again, remember, before you focus your mind to the objects of meditation, the breathing out and in, just make sure there is no any part of your body being tensed, but to be in a total relax. When you know your body is in a total relax, you can start to bring your mindfulness, your sati, to the objects of meditations by focusing on the sensations, on the thoughts around the nose, the nasal cavity. Then you will see the breathing out and breathing in. Just knowing it, the breathing out and in. And remember, when your mind is already wandering, you have to come back to the objects of meditation. Or you can see the danger of the hindrance and come back to the objects of meditation. Just keep your body calm, your mind calm. Be relaxed, but be aware, be mindful. Yeah, you can open your eyes and end meditation. Half an hour is taking rest.